Why did I put my RPG about ninjas on the back burner for a game about movement? What's up? I'm IgsEatsYurSoul, CEO of Your Soul Studio. It's ours if you have fun. And today, I want to show you my newest project, Project Maze, or I'm sorry, I should be referring to it as Fathers in the Maze, pixel art indie horn maze horror game. And you're invited to playtest it. Not only playtest it, I personally invite you to enter the Google survey about the game and tell me all about it. It's really designed to just gather data that, as a game developer, is endlessly useful. You know how a picture paints 1,000 words? Well, so does a really good feedback survey. And that's exactly what it is. It's going mainly into the movement. That's what I want to know the most about. This is the first time we've ever dipped our toes into horror. So I also want to know, as a pixel art game, how well did it capture your fear? I'm talking about thriller. Was it more of a action type of fear, or was it more of a fear kind of recluse, hide, run? Or was it more of a take action and run into the danger? You know, that kind of details. If I were to want to make more horror games in the future, this is definitely going to be important feedback that I need. And not only that, I want to take you through the development of the game, and what a better setting than out in a cornfield. Sorry, it's December, so there's no corn growing. So come with me. I want to take you through the development of Project Maze, or rather, Fathers in the Maze. Let's go. It's a bit colder out today, probably for the best when we're talking about something a bit more cold, and often people can be seeing this as a negative subject, but honestly, as a game developer, it's nothing but valuable data and information, and that is what went wrong and what went right during development process. Something had to have gone wrong for the fact that the game came out delayed. I think the biggest thing that went wrong was the simple fact that we didn't have a outline at the very beginning of the game for the timeline. If I would have had a clear idea on what I wanted from the camera and what I wanted from the movement in conjunction together, I think I wouldn't have had to redesign the camera and the movement twice coming up with this. And that was the simple fact that originally I've had it so the camera followed the player, because I went into this only really thinking about the player's movement, and that brought me to a huge thing that I never really thought about before, and that's the simple fact that the camera is just as important when thinking about movement. And it's something that going forward, I will definitely be making sure that our projects consider what we want with the screen space and how we want to utilize that screen space. What went right? Well, nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, plenty of things went right. My designing for my world maps have gotten so much more complex and so much more advanced. It's actually thanks to a game developer here on YouTube, and he's an architect. He's designing a game called Chef RPG. In fact, I think the game's out currently, if not at least in early access. He had a video, and it's very useful, where he said about designing world maps a screen at a time. So how I go about designing my world maps is I design how many screens wide and how many screens, I said wide like this, how many screens wide and how many screens long I want this world map to be. And I usually decide that based on how long I want it to take the player to walk from one side of the screen all the way to the other. And then from there, I'll be like, okay, I want it to be 3 screens wide, and I want the player to take approximately 2 minutes to walk from one side to the other. That will help me decide the world size when I put it into the game engine. That'll also help me decide the pixel size for when I'm designing it inside ASprite. So I take my thing and I put it in ASprite, and I design my world directly on ASprite, and it was so much nicer to do it that way. And the only thing I didn't do was the obstacles. Initially, I did do the obstacles on the world map, but then came into an issue when slapping that into Unity with the layering, because it was counting all of the trees as one object, and it was silly, and I didn't really think about that. I just was really into designing the world. In the future, I will try not to put as much effort when in that part of the designing phase into making sure the obstacles are perfectly placed, but more like just perfectly outlined where I want them to be. After I have all of my assets designed, I pop open a world map with the size I want the game to be, and then I start designing a screen at a time, outlining where each one of the screens will be, and that was the issue. I did it a screen at a time, based on as if camera would be following the player, and I would just put bounds around the edges, and I didn't put any deeper thought. I just assumed that's how I'd be doing pretty much all my games. And that's the issue. We should not assume that each game is one and the same for the camera. This game's camera is imperative to the horror aspect. Walking up to the edge of the screen and listening to see if you can hear the footsteps while also making sure that you're not close enough to get got is a part of the horror that just it wouldn't be able to be transferable in 3D if I took that camera movement away. The camera movement was as vital as the player movement. And I learned a lot about that when making this game specifically, and I think that was really what Project Ninja was missing, and I recognized that, was the movement and the camera didn't feel like they feel like they're arguing. They feel like they're arguing and they're just, I'm putting a lot of code in to make them not argue. We learned a lot as a studio, and as a solo developer, taking all the information that you guys submit in the fan feedback survey, while also just my own observations while watching my wife play tests, and while developing this game, has just been an eye-opener for the future of our games. My hand's in my pocket right now because it's kind of cold. Another big thing that went wrong during development was I didn't advertise enough. I needed to be posting before the game was finished about the game, not after. Not when the game was almost finished. It needed to be documented the moment development started. There needs to be more footage and more PR and more us reaching out and talking to the community, because nobody knows my game exists if I don't tell them. What could Flip 'em Monsters? Flip 'em Monsters is on sale right now, 50% off, and its assets $2. The game is regularly $3 and the assets are regularly $1, but the assets right now are 50 cents and the game is $1.50, so $2 all together. It's all you have to spend for Flip 'em Monsters and all of the assets, which are completely recolorable. They're 1-bit assets and they come in white, so you'll be able to recolor them for your games, and they're completely reusable for commercial purposes. And any assets that get added to it while I'm making the big update from Flip of Monsters 1.2 to 2.0, all new assets that are being created are going to be added to that. And the best part, once we level up the channel, that means 100 EXP. That's subscribers. The assets will become completely free forever, and I want you guys to be using them for your games, and make sure you mention Your Soul Studio when you do. I want to see what you can create. What could Fathers in the Maze become? Well, I actually made sure I outlined that in my game design document when filling it out after the development of this game. I'll wait. Hope you guys get there safely. I made sure to outline that in our game design document for Fathers in the Maze, and I made sure to outline what would stay, what would change, and what I believe the future product of this game would become. Things that would be added would be stuff like the dialogue system that was supposed to be in the original game, and an item and inventory system. Possibly an inventory system, but definitely an item system. I'd wanted to play something similar to the 1980 adventure game, where you have to put down an item to physically pick up an item, and I'd want there to be a reason to turn off the flashlight. Due to time crunches and the fact that the game was already going to be pushed out late, there was nothing to add last minute to make sure that the player had a reason to turn the flashlight back off, so that was definitely something that would be needed to add if this game were to be a fully released product we'd put on Steam. Something like a cooldown just didn't feel correct because there was no point. A flashlight, that's not how flashlights work. Maybe the video games have added, reasons, but a regular flashlight that your brain goes to is the ones you click on and off. So I wanted it to feel familiar, like a flashlight. So I think I'd make it so you'd have to physically take a battery out to put a new battery in. So you'd have to decide, hey, this battery's at half. You can't just add a battery to a battery in real life. Horror games do that so often, like, oh, it charged it. No. You'd have to decide this battery's at half, but that one's full. Do I leave this one here on the ground and pick up that full battery, or do I keep this battery with me and keep going? Because you will not be able to pocket things, because this is happening at night and you're just a teenage kid looking for his dad. You don't have any pockets, my guy, and if you do, maybe I'd have like one pocket, like a front pocket reasonably, but it's just something that I would have to dabble with in development and playtesting. Honestly, it's not something that we could make a detailed decision about, but there would be some sort of item and inventory system that was heavily inspired by the game Adventure from 1980. Specifically, heavily inspired by that game. We need to change the scenery. You might be wondering why I glossed over what would be removed. Simply put, I'm just much more excited about what would be added. There's not a whole lot the game has, I made sure of it, that needs to be removed, but something that would definitely have to be changed is the opening would have to be entirely reworked. I'd want to make sure there was lore added this time, and the end cutscene, I would have to make sure it was a bit more in-depth, and I'd want you to be able to add your name and maybe a score to a leaderboard or something like that. I'd want to make it possibly feel a lot more accessible to speedrunning. My wife and I also have a Discord server. You can let me know about any issues you have with games, and also stay updated with games as soon as I inform you. I also have a Dev Diaries channel in there where I talk about all of my development issues and all of the upcoming notifications and stuff. You guys get notified of everything before anybody. So yeah, you should check out the Discord, join our family Discord. If you also like Twitch stuff, you might find some stuff of hers over there that you enjoy. So, love you guys, that's all. So, I have gone over quite a lot about the game. There's not a lot I can really cover without you just playing it. It's a short 5 to 15 minute experience depending on how much time you want to spend on it. Let me know what your feelings are. It's meant to be a short experience specifically designed around movement and pixel art movement and all of that kind of stuff. So I want to know your opinion. Please, please, please don't forget to fill out the fan feedback survey. I've been IgsEatsYurSoul, and this is why I had to stop development of Project Ninja. And there's going to be a devlog about Project Ninja pretty soon. Whew, a lot of big updates. I'd tell them in this video, but it would kind of ruin the fun and the big whoo moment of that video. So, and maybe I actually might have something more presentable for you by the time I have the information ready to be announced. So, as always, if you have fun. Peace!